You're watching Adam the Bull on the Bet Rivers Network.
And welcome, everybody, to the latest and special Sunday emergency news breaking podcast edition, if that's not enough titles for you, of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. This is what I look like on Sundays. I got a sloppy beard. I don't know what's going on. Not that I haven't had plenty of sloppy beards during the week, but I feel like it looks a little sloppier on a Sunday, especially a non-football Sunday, or it was supposed to be a non-football Sunday. When Myles Garrett first requested a trade from the Browns, I said that no matter what the Browns said about trading him or not trading him, that there would be no resolution, there would be no end to this story until one of two things happen. One, the Browns actually traded Myles Garrett. Or two, he signed an extension. The second one of those at the time seemed less likely. But once again, it's proof of two things. One, never assume. When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, as I have, and many of you have, I'm sure, many times before. Number two, never undervalue the meaning, the power that money holds. It's always about the money. Myles Garrett told anybody who would listen to him for the last, month, that it wasn't about money, that it was about winning. He put out a whole statement saying it was never about Cleveland to Canton. It was about Cleveland it was about a Super Bowl to Canton. But it's not about a Super Bowl, and that's okay. But, players talk about wanting to win all the time. But that's almost never the first priority. The first priority is every last dollar. And I don't have a huge beef with that. I just don't understand if this was always about money. Now, listen, the Browns gave him a massive, massive extension. They broke records, set history, or reset history when they paid Deshaun Watson the worst contract in the history of professional sports. This one should be a lot better, but it's still record-breaking. The extension, it's a 4-year extension on top of the 2 years he already has. So Myles Garrett is now under team control for 6 years through the 2030 season. The new extension that he signs will average $40 million per year. That is one of the largest contracts ever, including quarterbacks, but certainly it is the largest ever for non-quarterbacks. It includes $123.5 million in guaranteed money. Both figures, the $40 million per year, the $123.5 guarantee, both the highest ever for a non-quarterback. Just a few days ago, there was a big story about Jimmy Haslam refusing to meet with Myles Garrett. And then completely out of left field today, the sides have come to an agreement. According to Adam Schefter, Browns GM Andrew Berry and Nicole Lynn, who is Myles Garrett's agent from Clutch Sports, finalized the deal this morning. And the month-long bad-mouthing by the Browns by Myles Garrett, the month-long talk about winning goes out the window for the money. The extension also includes a no-trade clause. So Myles Garrett goes from, I want to be traded no matter what, that's all I care about is winning, to not only have I signed an extension, I'm going to sign a no-trade clause. And obviously that's because if by some chance he does get traded down the line, he would have control over where he was shipped to. This would, most likely, this will keep Myles Garrett as a Brown for the rest of his career. And I really have mixed feelings about the whole thing. From Myles, listen, Myles Garrett's a great player. And I don't know that it could ever be a bad thing for a great player to be on your team. However, we know where the Browns are at. They're a bad team with little hope at the moment. Now, things can change quickly in sports. We've seen it with Washington. We've seen it with Houston. We've seen it with Cincinnati, all in the last handful of years. So anything's possible. We could see it again with the Browns this year. Does making a defensive end the highest paid player in the history of the league besides a quarterback make sense? That's debatable. I'll say this, though. Again, the one thing you credit Jimmy with, he's not afraid to spend. It's not a situation like a lot of other teams. I'll mention Cincinnati again. Are the Bengals going to sign any? They spent a ton of money to sign Joe Burrow, but are they going to get a deal done with Jamar Chase? Well, that just got harder. Are they going to get a deal done with T. Higgins, their best pass rusher, who's one of the top 5 in the game, not number 1 like Myles Garrett, but certainly top 5, 10 at the worst. Trey Hendrickson, he's probably going to get traded. The Bengals as an organization are not committed to spending whatever it takes. And as I've said many times, for all his flaws, Jimmy Haslam, he'll spend. Now, sometimes to the detriment. Maybe they should have let Deshaun Watson turn them down instead of spending. And maybe in the long run, we'll think the same, that maybe they should have traded Myles Garrett. The Browns are starting over. The draft picks certainly could have helped the rebuild. However, with the Browns' recent history of draft picks, who knows? It's a crapshoot to begin with, even if you have a good GM running the show. In the end, even though I do have some concerns about the Myles Garrett helping the Browns win, it is generally good practice to keep your best players. So I think this is good for the Browns. I don't think they'll regret this move. I have to admit I'm surprised, but I guess we shouldn't be, because it's just another example that what players or teams say in public is meaningless. They're sending a message. Players often accuse the media of creating agendas. Players themselves often create agendas or narratives that they want to spin out there. Myles Garrett in every interview said it was about winning. And now when he talks to the media, he'll come up with some nonsense about how he wants to win here. But this, folks, let's keep it real. This has zero to do with winning. Zero. And if you don't care about that, that's fine. I don't even know that I care about that. Well, players want to get paid. We all want to get paid. That's fine. But I'm not going to listen if Myles Garrett tries to, talk us into a state because he wants to win here, that winning is important, because winning is not important. He told you that. He told you today that all that matters is money, and that's fine. If the Browns traded Myles Garrett, you get draft picks that could help you. You're starting over. No reason Myles Garrett couldn't be great for another 3-4 years or even longer. Now you solidified at that position. You don't have to worry about the bad cap hit you would have had to take had you traded him. And now, as the unofficial start of free agency happens on Monday, the Browns can get about their business of adding. They've kept their most important player, their best player. Now they've got to add to it, because they just went 3-14 with Myles Garrett having a Defensive Player of the Year caliber season. He didn't win it, but he again had a great season. It didn't help them win. The only thing that's going to help them win is to improve the talent around him. Most importantly, as we've talked about a million times, to improve the talent at quarterback. But it's easy to pile on the Browns. I've shit on them a million times. They've deserved to be shit on a million times. I'm no supporter of Jimmy Haslam. I think he overall does a bad job. I saw my colleague and friend Jason Lloyd say, he said it in our chat group. He said it on Twitter. This is what Jimmy does. He throws money at a problem. It didn't work in the Watson case. In this case, I think it made sense in the end. And I started this podcast saying I'm not sure. And I don't know that this is going to help them win. In the long run, yes, there's still a part of me that says maybe in the long run they would have been better off getting a boatload of assets for Myles Garrett. But I've said a lot of times, you don't win by trading good players. You usually lose a trade when you give up a superstar. Myles Garrett is still the best defensive player in the league. He's clearly the best pass rusher in the league. Jimmy Haslam doesn't care about money. He'll spend it. And so I'm 90% positive on this. And I think, moving forward, I just think this is good for the rest of the offseason, that this is not hanging over the Browns and it's not hanging over Browns fans, because it's been a source of frustration. Fans had gotten frustrated with the organization once again. Fans have been frustrated by Myles Garrett continuing to pile on the team and talk about winning and winning elsewhere. When you have a player that you love, like most fans do with Myles Garrett, you don't want to see him playing for another team. Now, maybe the Browns could take, I don't know, they were able to spend all that money. Could they change their mind and maybe save $5 million for Nick Chubb? Jimmy, if money is no object, why let Nick Chubb walk? And stop responding to my Twitter by saying, he's no good, he's washed up. Maybe he is. We're talking about a minimal amount of money. I understand that he's not a great player anymore, or wasn't last year and may never be again. But bring him back. You brought back Myles Garrett. Clearly, you're not tanking next year. You're going to try to win. Okay. They're going to dress quarterback with a veteran. They're going to dress quarterback in the draft. Will they do it at 2? We'll find out in about 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Bring Nick Chubb back. And so, as negative as things have been in the last week, you've seen Myles Garrett re-sign, so he's not leaving, and Joel Bitonio decide he's going to play for one more year. So 2 of your best players, 2 of your most tenured players are coming back. Let's flip the switch on Nick Chubb and bring him back too, Browns. Come on, Andrew Berry, smarten up. Jimmy, get involved if you have to. Really don't. But Andrew, learn the lesson. Don't make it only about the numbers. Save a little room for the heart and bring Nick Chubb back. But in the end, good move for the Browns. The amount of money to me is almost meaningless, because Jimmy continues to show he'll pile on more and more and more and more, trying to win, trying to get them set up for potentially their new dome in 4 years. That's what he wants. He's going to keep spending. And so the Browns do have an advantage. They have a flaw with the owner, but they have an advantage over a lot of teams in their willingness to continue to pile on more money on more money. And unlike the Deshaun Watson situation, Myles Garrett's been great the last few years and should continue to do so. And it's good that he's going to do it in a Cleveland Browns uniform. All right, I'll have you up to date both on UCSS and right here on the podcast throughout this week. Any breaking Browns news, we'll jump on with a podcast as the free agency tampering period begins tomorrow and then officially starts on Wednesday. We'll do the live show with Dustin on Thursday, so a lot to get to this week. Thanks for joining me on this Emergency Sunday. Thanks to Tim and Max for producing. I'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. See you, everybody.